Thank you, David. It's an honor to be here today, and I'm just very humbled by being among so many amazing people, so thank you for the invitation. And for you to understand how I got here today and the work we are doing to change education in Brazil, I would like to share a personal journey over the next few minutes. And I was born and raised in Brazil, clearly. And my grandparents came to Brazil a long time ago. And many people don't know, but Brazil has the largest Japanese community outside Japan. And after slavery was banned in Brazil, many immigrants came. So that's when my grandparents came to Brazil. They went to work in agriculture. And most of them actually lived in the former senzalas, which is where the slaves used to live. So conditions were awful, and the employer paid for their trip expenses. So as you can imagine, they were pretty much debt slaves at that time. And up to a certain point, they decided that was enough, and they ran away in the middle of the night, but basically carrying everything they could, and ended up in the state of São Paulo, and they finally could settle down and raise their kids. And they did a pretty good job. They had 15 kids, and they really focused on help them get educated, because they thought education was the only way to change their social condition. So I guess I am the result of my grandparents' vision. I was able to, my parents could afford good private schools. I studied my ass off and ranked first in the national admissions exam, which is kind of the Brazilian SAT. So I was accepted at one of the best Brazilian universities, which is University of São Paulo, which is public, so I didn't have to pay. Then I did consulting for a couple of years, got a scholarship, went to Stanford, did my MBA and a master's in education, and then went to work in Wall Street for about almost 10 years. And then I finally made it, because I got an offer and I became CFO of one of the fast-growing oil and gas companies in Brazil, pre-IPO. So I succeeded, right? I made it. But I was feeling totally empty. I had nothing. I had done nothing other than worry about myself, my wishes, my vanities, and status. So I'm pretty sure my grandparents would be proud of me, but I was not. I just wanted so hard to win. I just wanted so hard to prove to myself and to others what I was capable of. But I was feeling pretty empty at that time. And then I had kids, right? I have 3 kids. Luana, she's the brave, 6 years old. Yasmin, caregiver, 8 years old. And Victor, the young, the magnet, he's 2 years old. And I started to think what I was doing with my life, right? Because I barely saw my kids. I had to decide whether I wanted to be a weekend father or a real father. I had to decide whether I was going to raise my kids or pay someone to educate my kids. And, the prospects for them were actually pretty good, right? If I'm not wrong, they have about 90% chances of graduating from one of the top universities in the world if they choose to do so. They could be, they choose to be entrepreneurs if they want. And even if they fail, they will probably have good chances of having a good financial life. And I guess the biggest difference between my kids and most of the kids in Brazil of their age is that they have the opportunity to choose what they want to do, which most of the kids in Brazil don't. So, unfortunately, the education system in Brazil, it's pretty bad. And I mean, why should I care, right? This is the point. As a father, everything you want is for your kids to be happy in whatever they choose to do. So Why should I care if Brazil is the #1 country in homicidal violence, almost 5 times the world average? Why should I care, even though the Brazilian economy is doing so well? Why should I care? Why should I care that the only 20% of the population in Brazil finish high school? Why should I care that out of those who finish, only 10% have the basics in Portuguese and math? And why should I care that just 8% of the population finish college, actually? Right? Because it's not going to impact my kids. So why should I care? So maybe their future is not as guaranteed as I thought. And there was a picture in the presentation, but I wanted to tell you about a kid. He was 8 years old. His name is Ives. And I knew his parents. And he was kidnapped by the age of 8 by one of his father's employees. And by the time his father was negotiating the ransom, he was shot twice in the face and buried. And obviously that was not expected. And I'm sure his parents thought his future was also bright and guaranteed. And so that's the reason I care, right? I think what I realized was that if I want the best for my kids, I cannot just hold the umbrella under their heads, right? I needed to do something for those who could one day shoot my kids or who could one day harm my family. So that's when I started to think, and it was really important to me, and I really decided that I wanted to do something different. And obviously, I went to what was the trigger, right? And the trigger was easy. It's education. I always think that if the people who killed Ives had the chance to have a decent education, maybe Ives would be here, right? Many of the dropouts in Brazil end up being criminals, right? They obviously cannot stand a chance to get a decent job or to find something that they can earn a decent money. And one of the reasons is that the educational system is completely old-fashioned, right? It is a centuries old, and it's based on an industrial model in which we line students up, we ring bells, 45 minutes batches, and it's amazing that we educate our kids in batches, right? And we group them based on their fabrication date, which obviously has nothing to do with how people learn. And when you look at the school about 200-300 years ago, and you look at the school right now, it's just exactly the same. And obviously, one of the biggest problems with the system is that it ranks children based on just one criteria, which is those who fit the system and those who don't fit, those who are considered intelligent and those who are not. And obviously, the system is not working. It is, as I said, just in high school in Brazil, 50% of the kids just don't finish because they feel they're not interested. They don't relate to what is being taught in school. So with that, we just thought, I guess the question is not as much about high-quality education as how can we do high-quality education in large scale, right? Because there are few people that are doing amazing jobs, but how can we scale that up? So that's the reason we created Geekie, which is essentially an adaptive learning company that uses big data and machine learning to personalize the education process for each person. We believe that different people learn in different ways, but the way the educational system works is standardized, right? Teachers give the same class, same sequence, same text, same books to everyone, even though people learn in different ways. So we found an opportunity to use technology to reverse the process. Instead of someone having to adapt to a certain book or to a certain teacher, why don't we focus on the learning process so that we break down this content and use technology to adapt content based on how each person learns best? So that was the challenge, and that's what we've been doing. People learn different things in different ways, different sequences. Each one of us has different gaps in our background. So why should we follow the same sequence? So reality, the way it works is when someone enters or uses Geekie, we do an initial assessment in which we develop a unique predictive technology so that when we do an initial assessment and the person receives an immediate real-time feedback that shows which grade she would get in the national admissions exam or the Brazilian SAT. With that grade, she can know exactly which university she will be accepted or not. And then most important, we show her what she needs to study in order to enter into that university that she wants. And I guess the beauty is we not only personalize the type of content that we show to each person, whether it's a video, whether it's a text, whether it's exercises or a combination of this, because different people learn in different ways, but also the level of difficulty of the content that we bring to each person. And I guess most important, the sequence of the content or the study plan that each person has. And let me show you a clear example. So this person, 16 years old, public school from Pernambuco, which is in the northeast of the country. So she came to us and saying that she had problems with percentages. But what we understand, and this is statistics, 100% of the people who have problems with percentages, their problem is not percentage. They didn't understand fractions, which came before. So if she could afford a private tutor that could understand that and then teach her fractions and then put together a study plan from fractions onwards, that would be great, but most of the people cannot afford that. So what we do is we understand what her gaps are, and then we create a study plan based on her gaps and also things that she should learn prior to learning that specific topic. So that's how we personalize the study plan for each person. And when you look at the results, I mean, it's amazing because you see from a scale from 0 to 1,000, she started with 433. The national average in Brazil is 450. Went to 871. I mean, it's just an amazing improvement. This other kid, again, from a public school, same thing. I mean, in a traditional system, he would have to follow the same sequence just like everybody. It doesn't matter what he understood, what his gaps were. So we understand, we map, we use data, we look at information and see how he learns, put together the study plan for him, and the beauty is it's dynamic, right? So the more he studies, the more we understand how he learns, and the more personalized his study plan becomes. So we can move forward. It's the same idea. And the question you may be asking is, okay, I mean, this is great, but we're talking about large scale, right? How can we do large scale? So our business model is for every private school that we sell, we offer to a public school that actually cannot afford. So that's a way everybody wins, right? We get more data, we have more people using, more feedback, more people benefiting. So when we talk about scale, over the last 18 months, we've reached more than 5 million students throughout Brazil. We have a 50 million student population, K to 12, so there's a long way to go. More than 20,000 schools throughout the country. We are in every state. We are in 80% of the cities in the country. There is someone studying with us. In terms of results, we recommend on a daily basis approximately 7,000 classes or study plans, more than 275,000 exercises, and the improvement over a 2-month period for someone who uses an adaptive platform like Geekie's is 30% more than someone who doesn't use, who just follows the traditional system. 30%, amazing, 30% of our population are our student base is adults who didn't finish high school, who are now trying to get back in the system. 82% of our students are from public schools. And what our technology has allowed us to really change how schools are been actually functioning. Yesterday there was a presentation from Sasha about the Rocinha favela, which is exactly like this. It's the largest favela in Latin America. And look at it's amazing to think that in the middle of the favela, you would have a school that is a public school using technology to change how teachers are using their time. So what is amazing, or the possibilities, is that there are certain things that technology can do very well, even better than teachers, which is really content transmission, right? Students can choose which teachers they like. They can see whatever many times they want. They can repeat. They can focus on just things they didn't understand. And then you free up time from teachers to do what the machines can't do, which is help to tutor students or mentor students to help them develop skills that will allow them to actually succeed in life. This is what technology is allowing. So it's really, I guess it's really unique, the moment we are living in which we have so much technology and support to help teachers do a better job in helping kids succeed in life. So it is a 100% digital school. So you see, completely different model. The teacher is over there kind of helping individually students based on things that they are struggling with. And I think what's most important is we now have a real-time feedback system as to, it can go up to each individual, a classroom, a school, a city, a state, and imagine this information being provided in real time to school principals, teachers, government. We are the only company that is certified by the Ministry of Education that does this type of technology that we have. So imagine the possibilities. And what's next for us? We are really focused now on using technology or pushing the boundaries of technology to offer low-cost solutions that can be scalable and help the learning process. So we are now in the process of testing how we can scale low-cost learning facilities. That's the next step for us. So there are many initiatives like this happening globally. We like to think that we are part of a global movement to improve education. And we are happy to be pioneers in this front in Brazil. We are all connected, right? And we believe that the challenges in education are actually global challenges. So just to end up, I guess my kids were the reason we started Geekie. And the core belief that we needed to do something not only for them, but for others. And also the core belief that you don't need to choose whether to make money or to change the world. You can do both. Thank you very much.
We need you in Europe, Claudio. When are you going to bring Geekie into other territories? When are you going to come to the UK?
I don't know about the UK, but we are looking for partners to expand internationally our technology.
So the model works, it just needs scaling up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's have some conversations in the networking break in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much, Claudio Sassaki.